Hey, just a note on reassurance seeking and speaking to your loved one and your family. I'm pulling from When a Family Member Has OCD, Mindfulness and Cognitive Behavioral Skills to Help Families Affected by OCD by John Hirschfeld. This one. This chapter here, page 118 in this book, Cognitive Restructuring and Reassurance. So catching cognitive distortions and challenging them logically can be a powerful tool for resisting compulsions. However, be careful not to unwittingly give reassurance by constantly pointing out why you think your family's members' thinking is distorted by OCD. So get that. Challenging a thought or the logic behind the thought is a tool that we use in therapy session. But at home on the regular basis, every time you notice your significant other taking caution or being concerned or having a doubt, if every time you address that and say, I think that's your OCD, and you're constantly pointing out that that family member's thinking is distorted by the OCD, you're inadvertently providing reassurance and not allowing them to work things out on their own, in their own mind, and build up their own self-confidence, okay? So for example, John writes, if your family member with a sexual orientation obsession says to you, I noticed that guy was attractive, so I must be gay now. Don't respond with, noticing another man is attractive doesn't make you gay, even though this seems like a logical point. A better strategy in this case would be to say nothing at all, or maybe shrug, though it can be useful for your loved one to work on catching and challenging his own distorted thinking. Your input will almost always be part of a reassurance compulsion. So just by saying that you think that's OCD, you're providing some sort of reassurance. So by reminding him over and over that his ideas are just OCD ideas, you're basically telling him he's not gay. That means he won't learn to accept uncertainty and will rely more heavily on your input. And on another note, if it's about something that is more tangible, where like the thought is, like it looks like my dog is breathing heavy, or the breathing looks labored and I'm concerned. If the partner says, I think that's just your OCD, that, you know, every time they breathe heavy doesn't mean there's something wrong. One, you're challenging the logic, which is actually providing some reassurance, even though it probably will only last a blip if it's at all effective. But I think a more mindful way to respond when there is actually something going on that your spouse is concerned about in the present moment is either active listening skills, where you reflect back, you think the dog is breathing heavier than it should be. And then the person with OCD would say, yes, the vet said to look out for labored breathing. It could be a sign of X, Y, and Z. Something like that. And then you guys work together to bridge the gap, okay? If you think, I don't think it's that labored, I think it'd be okay to wait. And the person with OCD said, it seems labored, but it's not an ER emergent, let's run down, to the town an hour away at 2 a.m., but it does concern me. It just may not be an emergency right now. You guys work to get to the middle and say, okay, well, this person might say, if it gets worse, let's think about going to the ER. Do you agree on that? Or maybe not. Okay, maybe it's if it goes on for another hour or 30 minutes, we'll agree to take them to the ER. How about that? Like sometimes there are situations where you may have different opinions on it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's OCD. So don't always jump to that conclusion and offer that up, but rather say, what is it you're concerned about? And try to find the middle path. Try to work towards an agreement of how to handle the situation together. It doesn't necessarily have to be OCD all the time. Extreme hyper-responsibility, the desire to be doing the right thing, to be a good person. Yeah, those can be OCD traits, but they're also just conscientiousness traits. And a lot of times people that are high on conscientiousness, their partner might misconstrue that as this is just OCD. So kind of tap the brakes before you call something OCD, and maybe it doesn't it doesn't require a response at all, or you go with the uncertainty. You say, I don't know. If it's about something you both care about, like the safety of your children, your pet, the well-being of your home, it's something that's of value. Try to see where the other person's coming from, where they're coming from, what they want to do, how they're wanting to resolve this, rather than reassuring with words or trying to identify the fallacy in their logic. See what it is they want to do. And if they're wanting to do something that they know is reassurance seeking or compulsive, like excessive Googling, asking ChatGPT, the things that have been identified as past compulsive behaviors, then then you can say that sounds like, sometimes what you do when you're working from a place of OCD, with kindness and love, and just see what happens. He has a mindfulness tip here. Watching your family members suffer and knowing that you have the power to ease that suffering by answering one more question requires patience and wisdom. You have to be able to see her pain and see your thoughts and feelings about her pain as relatively small parts of the whole, like fish in a pond or like clouds in the sky. In other words, these thoughts and feelings don't define the big picture, which is that reassurance is a compulsion and compulsions fuel the disorder. There's no more important area than reassurance when it comes to understanding and supporting a loved one with OCD. When your family member with OCD asks you a reassurance-seeking question, you both experience a lot of powerful thoughts and feelings. Your family member becomes flooded with thoughts of expectations, feelings of anxiety, and an urge for release from the tension. You think of your family member's pain, feel irritation over being asked, and try to remember what the right response is supposed to be. Your ability to tolerate whatever thoughts and feelings come up to withstand the pressure to reassure will make a tremendous difference in the likelihood of your family members overcoming his or her obsession. So if you're the spouse or the significant person, your ability to tolerate the thoughts and feelings that come up with you and to withstand the pressure to reassure and think about maybe just shrugging this one off or not answering it at all will make a huge difference in the likelihood of the family members' reduction of obsessive and compulsive behaviors. Yeah, I hope that helps. Comment and let me know your thoughts and any follow-up questions.